Hi, Budoor.
Hi.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks
At
for having
last, we
me.
made
Yes,
it, right?
finally.
Finally, we've been going through so many events and misfortunes,
Yes.
and finally we did
Finally,
it.
we made it.
Yeah. Okay, now you're my neighbor
Yes,
at Alendelus
I
Garden,
am.
and you have an amazing shop
Thank you.
doing tea,
Yes.
Japanese tea.
Hmm.
Okay, I want you to tell us the story behind all of this. Where did it start? Why you went that way?
Mm,
So take us through that.
okay. It's kind of a long story. I'll try to make it short and sweet.
Okay.
So a lot of people ask me like, why did you choose Japan, or why did you study tea? And my answer is always like, it chose me. I didn't really choose it. I took a job to go to Japan, and I started by teaching English there.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with the culture. And what brought me to the tea particularly is one of my students invited me over to, you know, kind of witness a Japanese tea ceremony or attend a Japanese tea ceremony. And I had no idea what that was. So I went and I was so amazed by the whole procedure, but I also didn't understand it. I thought I was invited for tea and there was like a person doing all these procedures. And then finally I was given like a sweet and then followed by a green tea. And I just didn't understand it. And
Yeah, you thought you were just going like any tea
yeah, just having some
occasion
tea.
here. They
Exactly.
put in the stakan and they give you the
Yeah.
tea and that's it.
I was so mesmerized by the whole experience. And at the end of it, he told me that my student told me that his mom is actually a teacher or an instructor for Japanese tea ceremony. And if I would like to kind of learn. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to learn. So that kind of also encouraged me to learn more Japanese because it was like my maybe third month there
Okay.
in Japan. So um, in Japan, I don't know if you know, but like majority of the people speak only Japanese. It's not very
Yeah.
common for people to
Yeah.
speak English. So I kind of started taking Japanese classes and kept learning. And I fell in love with the tea culture. I thought, okay, I want to kind of share this beautiful culture with people in Bahrain or, wherever I go back, I have to share this because I feel like not a lot of people are going to get the chance to actually go there and live there and
True.
immerse themselves in the culture. So I came back after 3.5 years and I opened up Chawan for the first time. And actually, it was in Amwaj. Um, but then a lot of things happened. My mom got sick, and I kind of had to pause all of that. And my mom passed away,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
I opened the shop for about 2 years. And then I applied for a scholarship to go back to Japan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
For what?
to do my master's
All right. In what? In the language or
in Japanese humanities.
wow.
And the reason for what pushed me to go back there is actually, in the tea house, I was kind of trying to share the Japanese culture with people based on my experience. But I had a lot of Japanese people come to the shop, and a few of them actually made a few comments like, like what I was dressed in a yukata, like what I'm wearing today, which is a casual kimono.
Hmm.
And, they were like, you're wearing it the wrong way. Yeah, like it should be the left should overlap on the right.
Oh,
Otherwise, you're
okay.
like going to a funeral. And I just felt at that moment, I was like, I can't be sharing Japanese culture with people if I don't know more than the average person. And then the opportunity came to I was still studying Japanese with an instructor here, a Japanese instructor, and he kind of encouraged me to apply for the scholarship. And I was like, I'm not ready to go yet, because I just opened the shop for 2 years. It's kind of still running, going. And he's like, it's okay. No, nobody usually gets it from the first time, but just take the test and, kind of see where your Japanese level is at.
And that scholarship was
It's
with
with the Japanese embassy here.
with the
Yeah,
embassy.
yeah.
Okay.
So I took the test, not thinking I would get it. And I got it that year. And it's like not common for people to just get it because out of 200 applicants, they would send one, maybe two a year
200 applicants in Bahrain?
in Bahrain. They open it up for 200 applicants and they only choose one a year. And then for
Wow.
that year, they picked me for some reason.
Okay.
And, it was just a lot of like, I wasn't like uncertainty, like I wasn't sure what should I do. I just opened the shop, like, and I invested a lot of money and effort into it.
True.
And then I just thought, like I got it and it's going to be a full scholarship. And I feel like the experience and the amount of knowledge that I'm going to get is probably something that's going to help me in the future. So money is just money, it comes and goes. And I thought the experience is worth more. So I closed the shop and I shifted it to an online business. Like I kept Chawan as an online tea
Okay.
house.
Yeah.
Back then, that was in 2014.
Okay.
And I went back to Japan for another 4.5 years.
Wow.
I had to do a whole year of Japanese, just Japanese language.
Tell me, Japanese language,
Yeah,
how difficult is it?
very. I can say like you would always be learning forever. It's like, how like most languages have like one alphabet, right?
Yeah.
Or they have three. So they have kanji, katakana, and hiragana. So you have to master all three to be fluent in Japanese.
Okay.
And like for kanji, kanji is kind of derived from the Chinese characters, but they're pronounced differently in Japan and also have a little bit of different meanings. But it's usually when you read in Japanese, it's a mixture of all three. So you have to learn all
Okay.
three alphabets, but also the grammar is very deep. The language itself is very deep. It's kind of like Arabic. It's very, very deep, and there's a lot
Does
to
it have
learn, lots of grammar.
masculine and feminine in it?
It doesn't, but there are so many ways to say one thing.
Okay.
And usually it's almost all very poetic too. And apart from that, actually, there are three ways to address somebody as well. Like when you speak to somebody, you can speak to them very casually, like if they're a member of your family.
Right. Right.
But if you're like talking to a coworker, it's different. If you're talking to a boss or a superior, it's completely different.
It's like respect. There is,
Yes,
yeah, because
but it's like
yeah.
speaking a different language. Like
Oh,
I'll just
really?
give you like an
It's not like
example.
one word will change and then it will give you that respect. No. Like in
Sometimes,
French,
yeah.
they have.
Sometimes, yeah. Like for example, if I'm talking to my friend and I would be like, "Do you want to eat this? Like, would you like to eat this?" You would say "taberu," like just to a friend. And then if I'm talking to somebody that I need to respect a little bit more, "tabemasu ka?" But if I'm talking to someone superior, it's completely different word. It's "meshiagarimasu ka?" It's
Oh,
very,
God.
very
Okay.
different. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, so the level of like respect kind of changes the way you talk to somebody. And then
Okay.
they have business Japanese. It's like completely different than just
Oh,
talking
come
normal. Yeah,
on.
it's very, very complicated.
Okay. Okay. Do they have different dialects when you go from one
Yes,
city to another?
definitely. Yes,
Bad.
they do.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh.
And that also makes it a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was in southern Japan in Fukuoka.
Oh, you were not in the capital.
No.
Oh,
I was
okay.
somewhere where people usually don't go, which was
Okay.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's full of culture, very, very rich culturally. And because of what I studied, it was the perfect place. It's in Kyushu Island down south. And I did my master's in international Japanese humanities. And I
Okay.
did my thesis based on or focused on the tea mastery or like the tea master system, which is referred to as the Iamoto system in Japan.
Wow. Okay. Now I'm lost of where to go next with you. Um, Now, you did all of that in the second 4.5 years that
Yeah,
you went there.
for the 4.5 years though, I because of what happened, like and because of the comments that I got, I felt like I need to do as much as I can and learn as much as I can. So I didn't just go to university. I actually entered to like something called it's like a Japanese kimono school to learn
Okay.
how the art of wearing kimono professionally, so that I can dress Japanese people.
Ye-
Because Japanese people don't wear this daily.
Yeah.
They go to somewhere like a salon or something and get professionals to dress them.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
kind of did that off of school. And I also kept continuing learning the tea ceremony with my instructor, who then, like, the next place that I lived, which was Fukuoka, is 2 hours away from where she lived. But I would take a 2 hour train there and a 2 hour train back.
Every day?
Not every day,
Okay.
like every
But
few
yeah.
days or on the
Yeah.
weekend.
Okay. And this was all on the side of your master's degree.
Aside from my
It's
master's
a
degree.
secret, I know.
Yes.
And all of this in Japanese.
Yes.
How were they taking you in?
Um,
Were they very interested and intrigued that someone from outside of Japan has come in and wants to learn all of this?
They were very much so because they felt like I was deeply immersing myself into the culture and also wanting to learn something that majority of the younger generation don't want to learn. And I had the passion for it to spread it outside.
Okay.
So like when with my teacher, with my tea teacher, we would host tea ceremonies and I would like explain it in English to them. Or if we have Japanese guests, I would sometimes dress them in Japanese kimono. And they would feel embarrassed, like, oh, a foreigner is dressing me.
Okay,
Like I
yeah.
feel so embarrassed that I don't know how to wear it. But it was a really good experience because we were able to kind of open up and share the knowledge and, transmit like the message, what's happening in the tea room instead of just silence and nobody understands it.
Okay.
I was able to kind of explain so that people would have an expectation of what they're expected to do because it's not just about just serving tea.
Tea, yeah.
My
Yeah.
experience the first time was very like vague. So once we give them a little brief and then they enter, they're like, okay, I understand. I'm supposed to be meditating. Like, this is something that's beautiful. I'm supposed to kind of shut out what's happening outside and just be in the here and the now.
And this is what you do when we come to your place.
And that is what I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lovely. So tell me, you came. Now, what year are we talking about that you finished?
I finished 2018
18, and you came back.
and I came back.
What happened then?
Well, I came back and I was determined to reopen Chawan. I mean, I have a physical space, but this time I wanted to focus it more on the tatami room, the traditional space of having tea, because that's where the whole idea of like meditation and like how you view life stems. So I tried first by starting a few events to kind of spread the word about what the tea ceremony is. And I remember the first tea ceremony that I ever hosted was for breast cancer awareness. I just kind of did it like, for free, just
Yeah.
wanted people
Oh,
to
yeah,
come and
yeah.
join and kind of see how people would kind of react to something like this because it's something very different, like to invite somebody to sit on a tatami and kind of, and I had a portable tatami room, so I kind of just brought it with me wherever I went.
Okay.
But people loved it, and it was something. I mean, that kind of encouraged me to like, okay, you should open up.
Even
a place.
Bahrainis.
They were all Bahrainis, yeah.
Okay.
And then I kind of I met Sheikh Hind
Okay.
in La Fontaine through an event that I did there, and I was serving matcha, and she kind of told me about the incubator in Al Andalus, but they didn't have space for me there, so she kind of talked to Skhairia, and then I opened up in her space.
Yeah, I
which was
remember.
the
A
Al-Faria.
few times I saw you there
Yeah.
with events.
Yeah. So I had a place there in the villa. It was still cozy because it was kind of like a homey feeling.
True.
You're visiting someone's home, but then there's a little tatami Japanese corner. And then, like, I think a year and a half or about 2 years later, a space opened up and I was able to actually build a traditional Japanese tea room in the Andalus garden.
Okay.
And it worked out perfectly because it's in the middle of a garden.
True. True. But did you, I mean, as any other business, when you start, did you struggle at the beginning?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before I went to Japan the second time, when I wanted to start the
Yeah.
business, my mom actually came to visit me a few times in Japan, and she fell in love with it. So the idea that I wanted to do was with her, but sadly she had got sick and passed. So I kind of was just determined to do it because I had promised. So I took out a loan on my own, and I just kind of put everything in it.
The second time.
The first time.
Oh, the first
The
time.
first time. But I learned from that experience,
Right.
I wouldn't say that it was failure. It was just part of the journey.
Okay.
Because there's no journey
true.
that goes perfect.
Yeah, you learn a lot
You learn
from
a
it.
lot. I learned a lot from that. I didn't have any experience with construction. I didn't have any experience about like running a business by myself. It was just an idea and it was just passion and drive. So the second time around, I felt like I was more prepared. Like
Okay.
I know what to do, I know what not to do, and like how to kind of create a successful business. So I kind of I decided to just, from like leaving the online shop open,
Mm-hmm.
whatever I had like saved up from that, I didn't take out a loan again. I had paid that off. So I just put my savings into it. So this
Okay.
time it was kind of a save for investment.
Perfect.
So I did that, and then the business started generating money, and then I just kept putting that back into it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
So you can say the second time, at least, you had some idea of what to do at the beginning, and then that started taking off.
I think it's more also the experience that I had from the first job, but also the knowledge, the amount of
Nice.
knowledge
Nice.
that I got from Japan, the amount of knowledge that I invested in myself to educate myself really paid off, because I feel like I know exactly what I want to do, and I know more than the average Japanese that I teach them now. They come
Okay.
to the shop and they are like, wow, I didn't know this was part of my culture.
Okay.
But I feel like to have a business or a successful business, you should know a lot or be very knowledgeable about your business. Aside from having passion, like if you're not knowledgeable,
Yes.
you're going to be lost. You're not going to be able to do it properly.
Great. Yeah. And then, and now you have cooperated or gone into partnership
Yes.
with another venture.
Yes.
Tell us about that one.
Okay, so it's a wa bento. It's a Japanese bento shop, and the idea came because in the tea room, usually when we serve the tea, before that, there's two types of tea ceremonies. One is a formal, and one is like casual tea ceremony. During the formal tea ceremony, we usually serve a bento box. It's a meal that you
Okay.
eat, and then after you eat, you start the tea
Tea.
ceremony.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of casual talking, getting to know everybody, and then the tea ceremony starts. So when I was doing that, this Japanese chef, Mr. Kikuta-san, he used to make the meals for me and bring them to the shop.
Oh, okay.
So then we decided, like, okay, he kind of after COVID, he lost the job, and we were like, okay, he would like to cook for the shop. But I didn't have a kitchen because it's a tea shop. So we decided to, okay, maybe we try to get the shop right next
Yes.
by
Yeah.
to kind of open up a kitchen. And it kind of worked out. I also have a Japanese partner, Miss Rie. So me and her kind of went in 50-50, and we just decided to create something a little different. Like people mostly expect sushi because
True.
that's the only
True.
thing they
Yes.
know. Like
Yeah.
when you think of Japan, you're
Yeah.
like Japanese food sushi. I still get people calling like, you don't have sushi? Like,
You don't have sushi?
well, no, not on the menu because it's a
Okay.
bento
Yeah.
bento shop. So
Tell me now, when I walk into that restaurant, the little cozy restaurant that you have made, is this a typical kind of look that if you go
yes.
in Japan, you go into a bento?
Certain restaurants, yeah. Some
So,
like
yeah,
even
okay.
sushi, some professional or specialty sushi restaurants, izakayas, like certain types of Japanese restaurants have that look.
Okay.
So we kind of wanted to go for like a traditional feel because it's kind of part of Chawan. We still wanted to kind of promote that authenticity of like being in Japan and not just being like a fusion Japanese.
So, okay. Tell me something. Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Is that the correct way of
Yes,
pronouncing it?
Ikigai.
Perfect. Okay. I came by this term, strangely enough, interestingly enough, it was just as I finished my PhD research. And it was like 4 years ago. Okay. I'm in the bookshop and now I finished that. Okay. And I'm in the bookshop and looking at books. And then I come across this book that says How to Find Your Ikigai.
Yeah.
And I was very interested and I thought, okay, let me do this. What do you think of Ikigai?
I think it's a beautiful term. And I think that everybody should think about what their ikigai is. And I feel like it comes to different people at different
The
parts of
parts.
their lives.
Yes,
There is no like a timeline where you can kind of find your
absolutely.
ikigai.
Yeah.
Like I would say I found it when I found the tea.
Yes.
And then that was that I'm living my ikigai. But some people are fortunate to find their ikigai and some people don't. But you should
Yeah.
always keep searching for that
How
one
do you
thing.
translate it? Because usually when they translate it into English, they try to make it as
It's
close as
close,
possible.
yeah.
How would you
It's
say?
kind of like finding a purpose for living life, a drive that kind of that mixed with your passion and a drive to do something that you love that gives you fulfillment,
Okay.
basically. Yeah.
Okay.
And that feeling keeps you wanting to kind of live life each day and waking up in the morning. It basically gives you a good reason to do so.
So I guess we'll finish it at this.
Okay.
That you have found your
I have
ikigai.
found my Ikigai.
Makes you get up every morning looking forward for that
It
day.
really, really does.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming
much.
in and
My
sharing
pleasure.
that with
Thank you
us.
for having me.
Thank you.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Bye.